So, but like I said, that's another long story. But at the point of the time when Artaxerxes said, okay, go rebuild, I'm going to let you go rebuild, that's the point that our 490 years starts, or our 70 times 7. Because the whole point, do you get the idea that when we're doing the math here, it's actually declared as 77s or 70 weeks. So a week is actually determined as 7 years. So I know it gets kind of confusing, but ultimately we're working with a period of 490 years, or 70 times 7. 70 times 7 years. So from here, the 77s are split up into 3 units. 7 sevens, which would actually be 49. 62 sevens, which would be 434. And then 1 7, which would be 7, which should add up to a total of 490 years. Does everybody understand that? Okay, well, we'll go through it, and I'm going to draw it out. So I know it kind of gets a little confusing, but the amazing thing is we actually see these prophecies come through to the exact day. Now, the first 7, know and understand this: from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens. So we have, let's see, how should we draw this? Let's make it small here. Okay, we have 7 sevens. In 62 sevens, it will be rebuilt with streets and entrenchment in times of trouble. This is the period that it took to rebuild Jerusalem. So, at this point in time, we have 49 years. I'm going to put the years on the top and the weeks on the bottom. This is when Nehemiah, we know, they went and they got all kind of the help because the Lord was with them. They went to go get the cedars of Lebanon to go rebuild the city and all this stuff. But 49 years is what it took. And God said, hey, guess what? It's not going to be easy too. The different verses that talk about that, it's almost like they had to sleep with one eye open because they didn't know they were becoming under attack. They also had to defend themselves while they were actually rebuilding the city, which God prophesied ahead of time. Nehemiah tells of workmen building with one hand while holding a sword in the other. I don't know how you would do that. And sleeping on the site in their clothes for fear of a surprise attack. So we have this first 49 years, or 1 7. This is where the city is built. And so I'm going to kind of draw a little building, something like that. Okay, Jerusalem's built right there. So, but then there is no break into the next section, which is the 62 sevens. The 62 sevens, or 434 years. This brings us to a total of 483 years. So let's go ahead and just draw this out, just like so. Now, the next one is 62 sevens, or 483 years, or a total of 62. 62 sevens. So this is the point of where God's prophecy is. He's absolutely amazing how He reveals to us exactly how accurate He is. He proves to us that He knows what He's talking about because He lines it up to the exact day. So as Gabriel's telling Daniel back here, guess what? There's going to be 49 years and 483 years, and you'll know that 483 years is up when the Messiah comes riding in. So and to the day when we calculate out at 483 years, it's 1,000 from this point right here. To this point right here, it's 173,880 days from the time of the decree to rebuild Jerusalem to the coming of the Messiah. So from this point to this point, 173,880 days to the exact day. So that's the point, is God is prophesying exactly what's going to happen. God doesn't just get it kind of close. God actually gets it down to the exact day from the time of the decree to the point of when Jesus Christ rides in on the donkey which would be obviously Good Friday, and he is then labeled the King of the Jews. And you always wonder, I always wondered before, like, when Jesus would go do something, he'd heal somebody or he'd do something, and he's like, don't go tell anybody. Don't go tell anybody. My time is not yet. Because I think he was specifically referring to the point that his time was at 173,880 days. That was his time when he would declare himself that he would be the King of the Jews. I think that's very important. God is that accurate that he has set it all in motion and has set it to the exact day. So then after the 69 weeks, so this is after the 483 years, after the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be cut off and will have nothing. The people of the ruler who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end will come like a flood. War will continue until the end, and desolations have been decreed. So the Anointed One will be cut off and have nothing. What's that? Crucifixion. So Christ is riding in on the donkey. Here's our donkey and the person. Right here, we have the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And I think it's very important to understand that it says after the 62 sevens. We have the 49 here that it was completing Jerusalem. Then we have 62 years. All this stuff happened, but it was God that was doing it. The temple was standing to that point in time. But at this point in time, Jesus Christ would be cut off and would have nothing. Or basically, it's another way of saying it that Christ died for us. He didn't do it for himself. He died for our sins. So, which is exactly what I said on my first point. So, and then the destruction of Jerusalem and the temple at 70 AD. So let's just say right about this point right here, we have 70 AD. We all know, history has proven it, that Jerusalem went up in smoke. It was destroyed, and Jesus even talked about it in Matthew and Mark and Luke, that every stone would be unturned. And we even know that, even from history, if you go back and read some of the stories, that the heat from the fires actually would melt the gold, and that the Roman soldiers or the people there were so hungry for it that they are actually pulling the stones and the rocks out of the way to try to get all of the gold that had melted and fallen down in the cracks of the temple. So it was just literally obliterated, which is exactly what Christ said, that no stone will be left unturned. So at AD 70 by the Romans with the help of the Assyrians, Jerusalem was destroyed. So the ruler who will come, as we have up in verse 26, is the Antichrist, future tense. Now, there's always been the idea that this is possible Roman heritage. I think there's an interesting, and I think most people think this is interesting, that the point up here I put is the help of the Assyrians. The Assyrians nowadays would be from the land of would be Muslim countries. So there's a pretty good idea that the Antichrist could be Muslim or come from the Islamic nations, which I don't think is a far-fetched idea to think about.